The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Veterans Forum. The program is coming to you from the Nashua TV studios here in Nashua, New Hampshire. My name is Bob Stevens, and I've had the privilege and the honor of doing this show now since 2007. There have been some wonderful things and some scary things, but one of the things I want to impress upon each and every one of you guys and gals out there, if you have a story to tell, and you can and will come and do it here. We will see to it that you get the best of treatment that we can allow. But more important, if you think about it, it'll be a priceless legacy because it's something that'll be here long after you and I and the rest of us are long gone. And that's what we're trying to do, is to record history told by the people who made that history. Now, you don't have to be Audie Murphy and you don't have to be Sergeant York. Every one of us had a job to do. And as far as I know, most of us did it, and we did a darn good job. Now, you're either World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, whatever branch you served in and wherever you served, if you can and will, this is the place to record it. And make sure that it's the way you wanted it done. Now, I've been flashing this around. It's something I got a couple of months ago in the mail. And I try to make sure every program that I bring it up to your attention. Very simply, this is a telephone system throughout the state of New Hampshire where any guy or gal who had at least 6 months honorable service and an honorable discharge is asked to use this number, 211. If you have any kind of a problem or need help, or if your friends think you need help, they can use this and also get you lined up. It'll put you in touch with, you can't read this, but it's about 25 or 30 different groups and organizations that are here with the dedicated idea that they will help you whatever your problem might be to make sure that you get the help you need. And don't be bashful. It's yours to have. You work for it. Now today, we have another fellow who did some things way back when. Like most of us, some of the things we remember, the index doesn't want to come through with it. Well, I'm going to ask Bill, his name is Wilfred, but if he likes to call by Bill, to introduce himself, give him information, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, Bill, you're on. If you will, tell us who you are by name, spell your last name, where you now live, branch of service, and your years of service.
My name is Wilfred Charnley. My last name is Charnley, and I live at 60 Grant Street in Waltham, Mass. And my branch of service was from 1941 to 1945, and I was in the U.S. Coast Guard.
Thank you, sir, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to show, we had some pictures taken before, of what's going on, how you used to be, and then here's how time has treated all of us, I guess.
Right.
And we'll try to feed that in as we go along. Now, as we said before, I'd like to try to run this like this is that old show, This Is Your Life. We'd like you to talk about the parts you like to talk about, ignore the stuff you don't want to talk about, and we'll take them there. Like, for example, where and when were you born, and how was your life growing up as a kid starting out?
I was born in Waltham, Mass. Back in 1923 on December 1st. And my life growing up as a kid was kind of rough.
Okay. Now, how were you as far as working in school, working after school, and that kind of stuff? Did you have any kind of programs that you did? Or
Yeah, I was a newspaper boy. And I went through the Waltham schools, and I went to trade school. And after trade school,
what trade school?
Waltham Trade.
Oh, the technical school?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the carpenter shop.
A wood butcher.
Yeah, wood butcher is right. And then I didn't even finish I played football for the Waltham High School, and I was in the Waltham High School band as a drummer.
Oh,
And then I didn't even finish, and I went in the service.
when did you go in?
I went back in 1941.
Wow, way back there, huh?
Yeah.
Now, when and how did you get into the Coast Guard? What prompted the Coast Guard? Any brothers or family like
No,
that?
nope. I just I went into Boston. It was the first recruiting office I come, so that's what I went to.
They lucked out. They got you.
Yeah.
Now, how was the first couple of weeks when you went from civilian to wearing the blue? How did you like it? Did you like it?
Well,
What-
they shipped
what
me
was
out
it like?
to scout the island in Boston Harbor for all my shots and everything. And when the first meal I saw in the Coast Guard, I never saw such food in my life, and I just ate till I almost couldn't walk.
I mean, it was so good or so
yeah,
bad?
it was so great.
That's the first time I've heard anybody put it that way, but that's good. Okay, well, what they do to keep you busy? How was your first couple of days? What do you remember? Was good or bad or confusing, exciting?
No, wasn't bad. I was only 16 years old at the time.
Was someone sign in for you then?
No, I knew a guy that was a notary public, and he forged my father's signature so I could go
Okay,
into
we won't go
service.
there. I don't want to have the FBI come and shoot me.
Yeah. So I went into the service and shipped me out to, I forget the name of the Scallops Island or something like that, in Boston.
Wallops Island? Does that sound like? I
yeah,
don't know anything about
I don't know.
Boston Harbor.
Boston Harbor, and then
Anyway, that's where
where I had all my shots
All right.
and everything. And then from there, they went back to the Hotel Brunswick in Boston, and they shipped me down to Point Judith, Rhode Island, Coast Guard base, and that's where I was.
Okay, now what did you do while you were there? How'd you
In the
get
Coast,
indoctrinated and all that?
Coast Guard base down in Point Judith, Rhode Island, I walked the beaches for 6 months down
Was
there.
that submarine duty?
Nope.
Seriously?
I just walked the beaches, patrolling the beaches in case the German submarines landed. And then,
Was there really that threat, that danger?
yes, there was. And then from there, one time the chief, the head of the station, he knew I went to carpenter school. So one day he comes in, he says, I need my saw sharpened because I'm going to cut down some trees this weekend when I go home. Can you do it? I said, sure, I can do it. So I did it, and he come back on Monday. He says, that's the best job I ever did. So then he shipped me down to Groton, Connecticut to Coppersmith School.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
So I graduated from Coppersmith School. They shipped me back to Boston. They called me in the office, and there was another Coppersmith there with me. And he says, I'm going to flip a coin. You call it. So I called it. He says, you're going to the Pacific, and the other guy's going to the North Atlantic.
Whoops.
So then they shipped me down to New York, to the Coast Guard base down in New York.
Was it Ship's Head Bay?
No, it's I forget what it is. Well, anyway, they were going to make up a ship's crew down there,
Okay.
and they needed some carpet on the ships. So we hung around for 3 or 4 weeks while they was getting the crew together, and the ship was being brand new ship. And I can remember the last weekend we were going to have Liberty. So I was walking across the parade ground, going up to the office to get my pass, and all of a sudden this lieutenant commander stopped me. He says, Sailor. I said, sir. He says, don't you salute your officers? And I says, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see you. My mind was a mile away. So he says, where are you going? I says, up to the office to get my pass. He says, I'll go with you. So he went up with me, and he says, I want to restrict this man to the base for not saluting his office.
Ooh.
Come to find out, it was Jack Dempsey.
Really?
He was a lieutenant commander in the Coast Guard, and I didn't salute him, and he restricted me for the base. The last time I had to go home.
Well, seriously though, did you really see him, or you just didn't want to bother with him?
No, I didn't see him.
Because he's kind of big, you know. You don't just walk
but
around.
my mind was a mile away, thinking of going home.
Okay. but
going
you-
up to see my girl.
Okay.
Then
And you were restricted there. Then they what? Send you someplace else?
no, had to stay on the base, and then Tuesday we went aboard the brand new ship,
What's the name of the ship? Remember?
Centaurus, AKA 17. And then we had to go on trials, and we went down to the Solomon Islands, down Chesapeake Bay, and for trials. And there
Well, wait a minute. Solomon Islands in the Chesapeake Bay?
yeah, Chesapeake Bay, and we had training down there, loaded and unloading the landing craft because we had 23 landing craft aboard the ship, and we practiced shooting the guns and everything, and then we come back to New York. We loaded up. It was on our way. On our way down through the Panama Canal, and when we got to Balboa, we had a couple of days of liberty, so I went ashore and I bought one of those big stalks of bananas for 50 cents. and the boy lugged it aboard ship. And then before we got to Panama, we stopped at Norfolk. And at that time, they still had the restrictions on the black people. I never run into that in my life where we had separate drinking fountains. They had a ride on the back of the bus. They had to step off the sidewalk when you walked along. And I never in my life run into that before. And at there, we loaded up with all kinds of beer, as much as the ship could handle, all in the holds, all over the deck and everything. Then we was down through the Panama Canal, out to Balboa, and a straight run to Pearl Harbor. Got to Pearl Harbor, we unloaded the ship, and we was in there for about a week, and we loaded up the troops and everything, and we was on into the invasion of Kwajalein. At Kwajalein, at that time, it was the first invasion. Everybody wrote letters to their loved ones and gave it to the next guy in case they got killed.
You couldn't make it.
Yeah.
What about the other guy? Who's he going to give the letter to?
He gave it to me.
Yeah.
So then, after that, it seemed to like one invasion after another.
Well, how was the first one? Because a lot of people have no idea what they see in newsreels, but you were there.
Yeah,
You,
I was there.
you hit the beach the first time. How did you feel?
Uh,
How was it going in?
It was kind of scary, because I was a carpenter's mate, and they needed me to go into the second wave, and with a gallon of white lead paint, all pieces of plywood cut in all different shapes and sizes, and nails. And it was my job that when the holes got shot in the ship, in the landing craft, I was to patch them.
And you do it? You had to wait for them to come in, or you just wanted to meet them?
No, we had to wait till they dropped the troops
Okay, yeah.
off. And then if they got the hole shot in them, we patched them.
Now, you out there, though, aren't you a target for snipers?
but,
Anybody in the boonies?
we didn't think of that at that time.
Oh?
No, even though we saw the Marines getting picked off alongside of us. And maybe we was young and foolish at that time.
No?
You know, and
So you grow old real quick.
oh, brother.
You get old real
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how many days were you doing that duty? Because you're
Four.
literally on the front line.
4 days, and then back to the ship again.
And how many did you have to repair?
I had 2,
Okay.
that's all. And back to the ship again.
And were you stationed ashore at night, or did you go back on the BP?
No, we had to go back to the ship.
Okay.
And then the next invasion. After that, we went back to Pearl. We was in there for a couple of weeks. Then we loaded up with the troops again, and off we were again. And this time, we went to Guam. And Guam, that was horrible. That was just horrible. The ships, they left us ashore because the ship had to pull out at night at that time. Left us ashore, so we was in the foxholes.
Pull up because the shore guns are shooting at them?
No, because they're afraid that the Japanese fleet was coming,
Oh, okay.
and the bombers were coming. So the ships had to go out to sea at nighttime, come back again in the morning. And was just horrible. That was just horrible. You see the flamethrowers wiping out the Japanese and all that kind of stuff. And then the Seabees came in, and I watched them dig a hole, maybe almost half as big as a football field. And that's where they put the Japanese bodies, and then they put lime over them.
Put them in lime and cover with coral.
Covered them with coral. And that picture you see of me is sitting on Guam there after the island was just about taken. And then...
Yeah, that's you when you were younger, a little bit younger and not quite as fuzzy.
Oh, yeah. And every ship was a hospital ship at that place. The wounded going to those ships. And I can remember, after I got back aboard ship, that the doctor was leaning on the rail, and the landing craft was coming back with the wounded, and the doctor was telling them, "No more. We have no more room. No more room." And I watched this guy get up out of that landing craft, walk up the steps to come aboard ship. And when he got to the top, he fell over dead into the water.
Oh.
Never forget that. And on Guam, they had a cliff there, and I watched the women jump off the cliff with their babies. And we had interpreters there telling them not to do it, but the Japanese told them we were going to eat their babies. Yeah. So they jumped off. They were jumping off the cliff, and all of us were standing on the shore crying like babies, what they were doing. Then, after that invasion, we went back, loaded up with troops again.
We're back to Pearl.
Yeah, coming back for another invasion. We all met at Ulithi Atoll at that time. We were going into New Guinea, and they asked for swimmers. So I volunteered as swimmers. I didn't have to go ashore as a carpenter's mate anymore.
What's a swimmer do?
So that day, invasion day, the surf was high. So the surf was washing the landing craft up on the beach. So it was our job to swim with a tow rope out to a pilot boat so they could pull the landing craft back off the beach again.
Yeah.
All the time, Japanese snipers are trying to pick us off. They got 3 of us.
How many guys was a regular, like a SEAL, a UDT team or
yeah,
something like that?
There was about 9 of us.
Okay.
And they dropped us in the water with the first wave, and they didn't take us out of the water till almost 10 o'clock at night.
It's a K-Park life jacket, that's all you
Nothing,
had?
nothing. Just like I'm sitting here and only with a pair of swim trunks on.
Oh.
That was it. And it was, and I can remember the landing craft, guys would try to shut their motors, wouldn't race their motors trying to back out, and they couldn't do it, and all the time the engines, the propeller was going around like this and sucking the sand, and I grabbed a couple of guys just before they got sucked into the propellers, and I was put in for the Bronze Star for that, saved a few lives there, and but it never went anywhere.
Oh?
No.
Wow.
Yep. And
They owe you, buddy.
yeah, and when I got back to the ship, they gave me the next day off to rest.
A clean bunk, I hope. Would you have a double bunk, hot bunk, one cold bunk?
Yeah, no, there was 3 of us,
Okay.
and I had the lower bunk.
Well, that's 3 invasions you've talked about. Any other more?
Yeah.
Not the Russian, but you got to tell us what goes on, how
Yeah.
you felt, and what you saw,
Uh,
and you heard.
Saw all these, at Guam was all these dead soldiers and everything. And but the worst one was the next one coming up, and that was Peleliu. Well, I went in a half track at that time, in the second wave, and that's where I got my crooked eye. And was going in the shore, and another half-track next to us got a direct mortar hit. And the flash pulled my eye over, and we got all covered with body parts and everything at that time going in. And I don't know how we made it to shore. They just opened up on us, and dead bodies all around, and floating in the water. And then it was my job to, at the end, to pick the bodies up out of the water and everything. And I never saw so many dead bodies and everything. I was just plain lucky because I never got shot. I never got hit or anything.
You got your eye.
Yeah, but I got that going in. And at that time, we was taking Japanese prisoners and put it back on my ship and heading back to San Francisco with them. And all the way back, almost all the way back to San Francisco, we had burials at sea. There were so many burials at sea. Americans and some of the Japanese prisoners we buried at sea.
Was it a hospital ship, or was it
No.
converted to be a hospital?
No, neither.
Just an APA?
Yeah, just an AKA. And we had the Japanese down in the holes down below. And there was always a number one man and a number two man. And the number one man and number two man were laying there, and the other poor guys were fanning them.
Oh.
And then we went back into San Francisco, and that was so much different there than the New York Navy Yard. If you could have got the ship up on your shoulder, you could have stole it out of the Navy Yard. They even stole my shoes, the Navy Yard workers, from underneath my bed.
Really?
Yeah. Well, they took a blowtorch, cut the lock off the copper shop, stole all the tools out of the copper shop. Well, anyway, we got it there, and they divided the ship in half. And half could go home at once, and when they come back, the other half could go. Yeah. So I was in the last half. So I called my girl, and she sent me the money for the plane fare. So when I got home, I asked her if she wanted to get married. So the time was running out. At that time, I was getting ready to go back. So I come up to Manchester, New Hampshire, because they didn't have the blood test, and Massachusetts had a 2-week wait for the blood test. Manchester didn't have it, and my girl wouldn't get married unless she had a Baptist minister. So I had to come up to Manchester, find a Baptist minister. So I got engaged at 5, married at 7, and back on a plane at 9 to go back out to Pacific. Then after I did come back for another year and a half.
Now, walk us through that of the year and a half, if you can. Where'd you go, and what other things did you see and do?
Well, when I got back to Pearl Harbor. Then we're getting ready for another invasion, and all of a sudden I got a call to report to the office. So they told me to pack my bags. This is February now. They told me to pack my bags. I was leaving, and I went back to San Francisco. They loaded me on a train, shipped me into Boston. Got into Boston. They loaded me on a bus, shipped me to Provincetown, and put us up in the Anchor Inn down there. And we had commando training on the beaches of Provincetown in the middle of February, and I just come from the South Pacific.
You goose pimples must have had goose
For
pimples.
10 solid days, we wasn't allowed to call home or anything. It was all a hush-hush. And for 10 solid days, they got us up at 4 o'clock in the morning for running. Then we come back and we ate, and then down on the beaches for commando training, learning how to kill people and everything. So then, after that was over, back out to the Pacific again and getting ready for another invasion. And the next invasion was Okinawa. And that happened on the April 1st.
Yep.
Yep. So I went ashore there, and that was a pretty easy invasion because I only stayed ashore 3 days, and we thought it was going to be a cakewalk. So then they didn't need me ashore, so they put me back aboard ship. I no sooner got back aboard ship than the kamikaze started. And it was 10 solid days and 10 solid nights that they were diving on us. They hit us twice. We shot down 2 of them. And I can remember they put me in the after damage control party. And the ship was rocking all the time with the guns going off and everything. And you could hear the ping, ping, pings on the side of the bulkheads and everything, where the other ships were shooting as the planes were coming down, and the bullets were coming over our ship, just like our bullets was going over their ship. And I can remember one of the injured guys who was down below, and he was almost screaming. And he says, "I got to get out, get some air." I says, "You can't go out there. They're shooting." He says, "I got to go out." So he went out, and he got a bullet right through the.
Ooh.
He died right at my feet. And after that.
Now, when I like you spent some time on Okinawa. When you came in from the west, from Naha side or the other side?
The other side.
Okay, up
Yeah, yeah, the other side. And it was kind of easy. We thought it was going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah, the first day or 2.
Yeah. And so they shipped me back. They didn't need me. So then after Okinawa, after that, we went back to Pearl, and they started training me for the invasion of Japan when the war ended. And then we went back. I got on the ship. We went back to San Francisco, and they loaded me on a train, shipped me to Boston for my discharge. When I got to Boston, they said to me, "You're not supposed to be discharged here. You're supposed to be discharged from the West Coast." So they put me on a train again and shipped me back to the West Coast again. Then when I got to the West Coast, they called Boston and they straightened it out. So then they brought me back to Boston. They put me on a bus, shipped me down to Groton, Connecticut, to wait for my discharge. So I was down there for a couple months. So by that time, I had my own car, and I went up to Boston, got my wife, brought her down to Groton, and put her in a rooming house down in Groton. And I could only see her on weekends, unless the tide was low. If the tide was low, I used to sneak around the fence so that I didn't have to go through the guard shack and go visit her. But she was down there for a couple of weeks, and she was lonely, so I had to take her home again. So then, after that, I went back into Boston to Hotel Brunswick. I discharged. They gave me $5.71.
Transportation home.
Right.
Yeah.
I went home. That was on a Wednesday. I went to work on the following Monday.
Where'd you go to work?
I went as a carpenter down for Campanella, who was building the houses down in Warrendale and down in Waltham. And I got laid off a couple of days before Christmas. I never went to work again till the following April.
Wow.
And life was tough. I had a baby by that time, and life was tough. I used to go down the Waltham tracks picking up coal to heat the house with and burn some of the furniture. And my wife was borrowing money off her father, who was working at the watch factory, so we could
Exist.
live. Yeah, and then my wife and I my mother-in-law had a big argument, so I walked out, said I wasn't coming back till we had our own home. So about a week later, my wife found me and told me we had our own home, so we lived in this house and paid $30 a month rent.
We're down in
right
What?
next door to my mother-in-law.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, then I started. I joined the Carpenters Union. I started working pretty steady then, and everything was going along right. I ended up buying the house. Then next door, my mother-in-law lived, 2-family. I ended up buying that too. So
Business was good.
yeah, it was getting great. And then this guy I was working for, he decided to go out of business. So I took over his business. So everything was going great. And then one time, I happened to be driving along. I used to live on Totten Pond Road in Waltham. So I was driving up Totten Pond Road. I happened to see this house for sale, single house. So I went in and I looked it over. I decided I'd buy it. So that Christmas, I put the key in an envelope and gave the house to my wife for Christmas.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she did. And Christmas, after the presents were all out, we all decided to go to the new house. So I bought it mortgage free. So I went to the new house, and my wife couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. My mother-in-law, father-in-law couldn't believe it either. So then we moved in there, and bought it for $26,000, brand new split level house. And then we lived there until my wife, my business was flourishing. I was doing great. And then back in 1991, my wife was working for Jordan Marsh at the time. So I went and picked her up, and she said she wanted to eat at the 99 restaurant in Woburn. So I went to the Four Corners in Woburn, and to the 99 restaurant, right across from Olson Cadillac there. So went in, and there was a 20-minute wait to the table. She says, "I'm not waiting. I'm hungry." She says, "I know another 99 restaurant." So I didn't know. So she says, "It's up on Mishawam Road." So we went up there. I parked at the shopping mall, walked down the sidewalk. Wei-Lu's, the Chinese restaurant there, was right across from the 99 restaurant. We walked across the street. We got up on the sidewalk, and this drunken driver got down the road, come up on the sidewalk, hit me first, hit my wife, knocked her 60 feet. And by the time I woke up, my wife was buried and everything. I didn't know
You mean
it.
you were in a coma for?
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
God.
and the doctor told my kids I wasn't even going to make it either because I had lost so much blood. But I made it. And by the time I come out of that, and there's a few months in the hospital, and then I had to go a month to rehabilitation to learn how to walk again. Then I went back home to Totten Pond Road all by myself. And then, you're not going to believe this, but if you walk in our front door, there was a shelf above the front door. And we had knickknacks over there. And it hadn't been dusted since before the accident. So I got out the step ladder, and I crawled up the step ladder, and I was moving some of the knickknacks around, and all of a sudden, somebody said, "Move that a little to the left." And I looked up, and it was my wife standing at the top of the stairs. And I only saw her for about 5 seconds. Right then and there, I says, "I got to sell this house. I can't stay here anymore."
Amen.
So I sold it, and I bought the condo where I live now.
Now, changing gears a little bit. Where along the line did you ever join anything like the VFW, the Legion?
No, never did. Never did. I used to go up to Lincoln all the time and ride in the 4th of July parade through Lincoln, and to ride on a trailer. Back
Oh, okay, right. I thought you
Yeah,
were-
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep,
I
yep.
never walked because I got a bad left leg from the accident, and I did that for about 5 years, and then last year I went up there and I was riding on the trailer, and this time there was some retired Army nurses on the float on the back there, and they gave us these little American flags to pass out to the kids, and the nurses were throwing them on the ground. I says to them, "You're not supposed to do that." "Oh, they'll pick them up." So right then and there, I says, "I'm never going again." So I never went again. That's it.
What do you do now to keep out of trouble? Or do you keep looking for it?
No, I belong to a health club, and I go swimming up there 5 days a week. I swim 5 laps every day, and go to the hot tub and take a shower and come home.
Did you ever do any traveling around?
No,
Any reunions in your crew? You get together at all?
well,
You showed me one picture of the gang from New England that went to Guadalcanal.
yeah, and we had one reunion up in Natick at the Hilton Inn there, up there. So, no, there was one reunion down in Nashville, Tennessee. So I decided to go down there. So I went to Nashville and went into the hotel. And all these crew members were drunk. I says, "You guys were drunk when I knew you, and you're still drunk." Yeah, and I had to hold his hand while he signed my name and I never went back. And then a couple of years ago, they had a reunion up in Natick. So I went up there, and all it was younger relatives of the ones on the ship was holding the reunion. So they didn't know me, and I didn't know them, so I left and never went back. I don't go to reunions anymore. I don't belong to the VFW. The only thing I belong to now is the Coast Guard Combat Association.
Do they have any meetings or get-togethers, parties, trips?
They do, but it's in other states, so I don't go.
You know,
I don't travel anymore.
just a homeboy, huh? Sitting by the fire, stroking the cat, drinking a can of beer.
No, I only have a cat. There's only me and the cat live in a townhouse condo.
Okay.
That's it. And I meet the guys. I meet the crew over to McDonald's every morning, which is right next door. I go over there at 7 o'clock because I get up at 6 o'clock every morning, and I go over there and meet them, and I stay there till 7 o'clock. I come home, cook my breakfast, and hang around until 11 o'clock. Then I go up to health club. Come back in the afternoon and go to bed at 10 o'clock, and that's it.
Yeah, pretty good routine, though, isn't it?
Yeah, every day, 7 days a week. I don't go to the health club on Saturday or Sunday, but otherwise than that, same thing, 7 days a week.
What I'd like to do, Bill, is to go through your medals and citations. I recognize this one. I'm going to just kind of hold it up. That's the American Defense Ribbon. The Asiatic Pacific Ribbon that you worked for very hard. It's lacking some stars, but I want to read something later on. And then here's the Coast Guard Service Medal. And last, but one of the best ones, I think, and it's the best one I know of, World War II Victory Medal.
Right.
Now, you gave me a piece of paper before, and I want to read this because it's part of your description here. Some of these things happen after the fact. You don't always get your medals and citations when and as you need them, and sometimes the ones you think you qualified for don't show up. But here's a letter that Bill got back, Wilfred, excuse me. This is in reply to your request for the medals you earned in the Coast Guard. It's a pleasure to award you the following medals for your service from 16 December 1941 through December 1945. And I read them as follows. The ones we showed you. The American Campaign Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, Silver Star, which means 5, and 1 Bronze Battle Star, World War II Victory Medal, and the Good Conduct Medal of the White Striper. It says now that Coast Guard does not issue stars for battles, but may be purchased if you want to buy them. I think that somewhere along the line, these things should have been awarded because, as you heard, you don't hand them out. The way things are right now, would you, I don't know how the best way to ask the question, but do you feel that your service activity, service in life was positive and negative as far as it helped you in the later life? Good or bad?
I don't know. I guess it's good. I can remember I go to the VA up in Bedford for my hospital treatments now and get my medicine there. They treat you like kings up there. They're just great. And one time I had to go to the one in Boston, Jamaica Plain. When I walked in, this guy come over with only one leg, and he thanked me for my service. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. That's the only time I ever went to Jamaica Plain. All the rest of the time I go to Bedford, Mass. And they couldn't be treated any better.
You ever go up to Hanscom?
No.
Okay,
Never go
just
there.
trying to find
No,
out.
No.
Because guys have told me different places, and I'm trying to get myself located.
No,
I don't know
no.
too much about the
I don't,
area.
I don't go there at all. And I have a physical once a year up in Bedford. And that's it.
Okay. Anything you want to share with the people? Any good thoughts? Anything at all?
I've seen so many dead bodies and burials at sea that I'll never, ever forget it. I can remember one island I had to go in, and we had to sneak in at nighttime.
It was still occupied?
Yes, it was still occupied, and we had to sneak in in the dark, and we were scouting it for a future invasion. And I was discovered by this Japanese soldier. He came at me with a bayonet, but I knifed him first. And we were supposed to fish through their pockets for information. And there was a picture of his wife and children in his pocket. I will never forget that. Even when I go up to the health club and go into the hot tub, there's all these Orientals that come in there, and I wonder if I killed their grandfather. And it preys on my mind all the time.
You can't carry that baggage, buddy.
I know it. I know it. Yep. It's something you'll never forget.
Oh, no. Amen.
Now I'm driving a convertible, Chrysler convertible. It's my 6th one.
Fancy dude, huh?
Yep. You're only going this way once, and it's going fast.
With the top down.
Yep. The top's down, sitting at my brother's place now.
Yeah. 3 words, if you will. Thank you, buddy.
My pleasure.
You did a good job, and we're glad to hear it. Thank you.
Yep.
That's it, folks. But first, again, I must remind you, 211. It could be the best phone call you'll make in your life if you need the help. Other than that, Bob Stevens again trying to sell the idea that if you have a story to tell and you want to share it, come down here and get a hold of us. We'll do all we can to make it worth your while. But look at it this way. We're fighting the clock and the calendar. I'm not hanging crepe, but there wasn't a time the clock ticks we don't get that much older. When I first started this program, we were given a statistic that by the Library of Congress's actuarial group that at the peak in World War II, as an example, there were some 16 million guys and gals like us all around the world doing their thing. A couple of years ago, and I've been doing this for a while, I guess, but I got an update. At that time, they estimated maybe 1.5 to 2 million of us old guys left. On the bottom of the information sheet, it said, caution though, they're dying at the rate of 1,200 to 1,500 a day. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I do know that my numbers are getting smaller and smaller. The bottom line is, if you don't tell your story and you wait for tomorrow, and maybe tomorrow won't come, we've lost all that history, and your family will never know really what did you do in the war. So if you can and will, please, we'll make it a pleasant experience. The rest of you, I say thank you. Stay healthy. Come and see us. Goodbye.